Hi, thank you for stopping by the channel. This is my first video. We're going to talk about freedom of speech, something that I care a lot about. Beginning with the most important thing of our entire Constitution, the First Amendment, which I would like to read for you so we all can be on the same page and understand what is supposed to be our rights that are usually completely ignored and shit on all the time. So the First Amendment, as it was written, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Now, the first big question is what that means, because a lot of people seem to have difficulty in understanding language of the Founding Fathers. Let me tell you that, first and foremost, their language was very specific and very pointed. It was not intended for interpretation. It was used that way specifically. We know that from the rest of the Constitution and the things that are in there that are written that way, and they say those things directly. So, unfortunately, we have come into a world that is more concerned with political correctness than it is with our right to freedom of speech. This has become something that even most recently, the biggest podcaster on the planet, Joe Rogan, has gotten in trouble for things that he said 12 years ago, apparently. I am personally not a big fan of Joe Rogan. I don't care about Joe Rogan. I don't know Joe Rogan. One way or the other, it doesn't matter to me. What does matter to me is the freedom of speech that is being completely ignored, and where people think that they have the right to tell others what they can and can't say, and they think that they have the right to be offended, which you do not. You can be offended, but that does not give you the right to tell other people that they can't voice their opinions. This is not to be confused with being on a platform such as YouTube that allows somebody like me to make a video and post it out there to the world, or somebody like Joe Rogan that posts it to I don't know how many millions of people, that has certain rules by being on their platform. That is up to them, and that is not censorship because you agree to that when you sign up to be able to use the service. Sorry, my camera's shaking. The problem is just a societal one, because although our laws are still sort of intact to protect the freedom of speech, it's become an entirely different way to get us to think and speak how they want us to. And by they, I mean, generally speaking, government and any political group or organization that deems that some sort of language that they don't like should be unacceptable in society. I say that all language is acceptable in society because it is our number one right in this country, and it cannot be censored just for voicing your opinion, even if it's an unpopular one, even if it's something that nobody likes or wants to hear. The fact is that we all have a right to say whatever the hell we want, whenever we want to whoever we want. That may or may not come with consequences, so you might want to be careful, and I'm certainly not advocating that everybody goes around using nonsensical, offensive racial slurs or anything like that. That's really not the point. However, you absolutely should have the right, again, for full, complete freedom of speech as is written in the Constitution. Therefore, if you are a racist and you do choose to use the N-word, then you're absolutely within your rights regardless of what anybody else says or thinks. Unfortunately, again, society has come to a place where you will lose your YouTube channel, you may be fired, you may be sued, you may be, God knows, whatever consequences depending on what you do and who you are and where you work. So, but it's gotten to the point, and the part, again, that I care about with the Joe Rogan issue is the fact that he was not even using his language in a way that should have been offensive to anybody, because he was simply talking about the use of the word. It's something that I do all the time because I talk about language and communication and our understanding of what real racism is. I talk about it all the time with people. And I find over and over again that truly intelligent people have no problem having a discussion about using any word, no matter what it is, when you're just talking about the word. And people that believe they are educated and want to use that for whatever their personal agenda is, they want to use that to manipulate and control people, groups, governments, schools, everything else, and again tell you what you can and cannot say and where you can and cannot say it, thereby a means of controlling you, thereby a means of controlling your language and therefore your thought, because we think in language. The problem next becomes that you can't still control people's thoughts, even if you can get them to shut up and not say the words that you want because you are offended, that they are still going to think that way. They're still going to feel exactly the same way. Probably they're going to feel even worse about it and about you, and now they're just going to be quiet. So that may please a lot of people. However, it does nothing to solve the problem of racism. And if it did, we would not be having this discussion right now. Nor would all of the discussions about Joe Rogan using the N-word on his podcast even be an issue. Because again, he was not calling people that name, that word. He was simply discussing the use of the word. And that can't even be done anymore. That's the society we live in, that you can't even mention a word, especially if you're white. But for some reason, it's okay for other races to use that, which, of course, is the essence of racism. When you say that one group, because of their skin color and for no other reason, that they can do something that no other people of any other color can do, that's what racism is. So I'm sorry to burst all of your bubbles, but the wokeness nonsense is nothing but that. It is nonsense. Because the bottom line is that you have a right to be racist. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to believe that. You have a right to be racist. You have a right to think and feel whatever you want about whoever you want, about anything you want. And that's probably the one thing that nobody can take away from you. They're not going to stop the way I feel about any group or person. Certainly not going to stop the way I feel about all this wokeness nonsense or the government. And they're certainly not going to stop me from saying what I want to say, when I want to say it, no matter who I want to say it to. And I will not apologize for anything that I have said that is just an honest reflection of my views and opinions. Nor should anybody else. Nor should anybody be fired, ostracized, or otherwise even talked about because they said something that other people like. All of you woke people need to get over yourselves and realize that you do not have a right to not be offended. It is not in the Constitution, I'm sorry. It's not in any law, anywhere. The fact is, you really need to grow up and deal with the fact that you live in a free country if you're in the US, and that means that people have the right to say to you anything they want. They have the right to think and believe whatever they want. And there are, again, First Amendment of the Constitution, there are no laws that can prohibit that. So you trying to control people and telling people what they can and cannot say will not change a goddamn thing. So get over yourselves, please. Excuse me, I was looking over a few things. One of the stupid things is that has happened also among all of this nonsense, especially from the past couple of years with the BLM movement, which I also disagree with, by the way, because it's also a racist movement. So I'm sorry to everybody that loves that stuff. But the fact is, again, you're just separating the races and you're making an excuse to act violently. And there is no excuse for that. And unlike language, that is illegal. I'm sorry, pretty much no matter where you go. So the big thing became about all of the so-called racial advertising was Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben and the Land O'Lakes Indian girl on the butter carton all have now disappeared because somebody thought that they were racist. Particularly in the case of Aunt Jemima, for those that don't know, that was a real person. If you can look up pictures, it was actually her pancake recipes and whatnot, and pretty much looked exactly like the woman on the bottle. So how that could possibly be racist is in the same sense and tone that trying to say that somebody simply stating using the N-word, not in a racial context, not in a negative connotation of any way, is racist. It's not at all. So if black people can be offended about Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben, then I'm going to be offended by the Pillsbury Doughboy and the Michelin Man, because those are white racial stereotypes. So I think I need to sue somebody for something, apparently, so that way it can be just like the rest of them. Speaking of suing people, we've had, because of all of this nonsense, with this perceived right to not be offended, we have people, there's a couple of idiots just in the past few weeks that apparently went and rented a movie and is now suing Universal Studios for over $5 million because the actress they thought was going to be in the movie is not in the movie that they watched. And that apparently was insanely emotionally traumatic for these two people. Well, I'm going to tell you right now that you're about to see both Joe Rogan and Aunt Jemima in my video. And, I would like to use their names right now to promote my video. So y'all can try to sue me when you don't see them coming up in the show. So thank you. I'll take your lawsuits any day. There's other lawsuits. There's most recently a lawsuit in Canada from a woman. There's an anti-vax truckers union that something like 10,000 truckers driving across Canada that do not believe in vaccine mandates and are protesting. So now this woman is also suing for more than $5 million because the trucks drove by her house and she couldn't sleep. I'll say it again because it's so important. You do not have the right to not be offended. I'm sorry. Being offended by other people because you live in a society that is filled with different people with different ideas is just part of life. Especially one of the stupid things is that for all of the woke people, that you want to talk constantly about diversity and how important that is, but that doesn't apparently include diversity of opinion or thought or speech. So you can't have it both ways. I don't even care which you use. Pick one. In the same way that I don't even care which you use as far as whether or not certain words are going to be publicly allowed in the language, but pick one. Either it is allowed by everybody or it's allowed by nobody. So, but there needs to be some level of consistency, and we ultimately need to decide as somewhat intelligent humans as a society to cancel this cancel culture nonsense and deal with the fact that not every part of life is going to be perfect. Not everybody you meet is going to like you or talk to you in the way that you think you should be spoken to. And every YouTube channel that you see is not going to say what you want to hear, especially not this channel. If you come back next week, I'll probably say some more things that offend some more people. I don't apologize again. That I just like I would not expect you to apologize if you told me you were a racist and you thought I was stupid. That's, again, you're right, and it honestly does not offend me. It doesn't affect me either way. So I just understand that we all have differences of opinion, and again, everybody's entitled to them. But the world we live in is not one where everybody's going to please everybody. That doesn't mean that you should be sued. And again, everybody is able and free to think and believe and feel whatever the hell they want. Changing the language will not change that. It doesn't change the attitude, it doesn't change the belief, and it certainly does not change the reality. And in almost every case of this, somebody comes out with a public apology. I know that Joe Rogan did. I saw part of his apology. Again, I don't really have that much of opinion on Joe himself. I don't care one way or the other. But the freedom of speech is what's important. And the fact is that even he said, I think in a comedy show he did afterwards, he said himself flat out, I'm an entertainer, I'm a comedian. You shouldn't be coming to me for any type of advice, especially not medical. If that is the case, if you're coming to Joe Rogan or any other entertainer to get advice about medical issues, you're the moron, not him. In the same way, I would not take my car to the landscaping person to have them fix my car. I wouldn't ask my car mechanic to come and landscape my house. My yard, obviously. So there needs to be some understanding of responsibility in this, that if you are looking for your information and or entertainment on YouTube, the sources are not all equally reputable. There are lots of great information, lots of great channels, lots of great sources. But Joe Rogan is certainly not, as great as he may be in so many people's eyes, and again, I'm not arguing that, but he's certainly not an expert on probably anything but podcasting. So if you want to go to him on how to create a podcast, that would be a great person, I imagine. But taking medical advice from Joe Rogan or the idiots that he had on there, just because you're a doctor doesn't make you, doesn't mean that you can't be wrong. So you have to use your judgment and your own opinion, and you have to be able to make up your own mind, not just based on what somebody said because they own a podcast and they have some guest on there that is a doctor. It doesn't matter. There's lots of doctors that are completely full of shit. So you might want to think about that. And sorry, I just shook the camera again. So I think that is about all I have to say right now. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening. And please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. There will be more to come, of course. Don't forget to check out the links below. They are to my books, which are available for discounted prices currently on Amazon. And please join me next time where I will explain why during the Reagan administration, Ronald Reagan had an operation on his rectum and Vice President George Bush had an operation on his middle finger at the same time. Stay tuned. Thank you for watching.